As a physiotherapist of 13 years, I've seen three huge mistakes being made when trying to use running for weight loss. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the ways you can avoid those mistakes, boost your performance, reduce your risk of injury, and also combat injury if you have an injury as well. My name is Ed, and let's get started. Running is a really good way of losing weight. It's very accessible. You don't really need much kit. It's free. There's also a social element. Lots of people join running clubs. You get things like the runner's high and you're outside and, you're a bit sort of inside in the gym. So there's lots and lots of benefits. As a physiotherapist, we see sometimes when people make mistakes with their running, often that can be related to injuries or it can be related to performance issues as well. The first mistake that people often make is valuing intensity over consistency. People often say rest is rust, or they say, if I wasn't really glowing, then it wasn't really a proper run. You get those endorphins, you get the runner's high, you burn probably more calories if you run faster for longer, but with that comes a higher risk of injury. There's a saying, run slower to run faster. The easy runs is the way in which you can still burn calories and still lose weight, but also massively reduce your risk of injury. Also lots of performance benefits to running slowly as well. People are strapped for time. So often we call these people weekend warriors, where they might only be able to fit in one big run at the weekend or maybe two. And they go on these kind of hell for leather 10Ks on the Saturday and then another hell for leather 10K on Sunday, and wonder why injuries happen and potentially why they have to stop running as well. With people who are strapped for time, it's just important to remember that easy, slow runs can have just a similar effect in terms of burning calories, in boosting your metabolism, but doesn't carry as much risk. In 3 months' time, you could still be doing those long runs consistently without having to stop because of an injury. So that's the first mistake that I see a lot of people make. They'll do hill training, they'll go to do intervals at the track, they'll get really carried away. Their body and what it can tolerate is here, and what they're trying to do is way above that. And that's, again, where injuries can happen. And then they have to take time out of running, which is really frustrating. The second mistake that people often make is variety. So what do I mean by that? If you're new to running, that's when it's the highest risk of hurting yourself. The most likely time you're going to hurt yourself is when you're first getting into running. So what that means is people use things like Couch to 5K, which I do actually think are really good. But they're also thinking, well, I'm not going to burn very many calories if I'm just doing 3 minutes of running. So then they might try and accelerate it or do more. And then again, run the risk of injury, time out of running, which means the weight loss journey is finished. What we recommend is using things like cross training, getting on the bike, doing brisk walking, doing brisk hill walking, swimming, getting on a rowing machine, cross trainer, so that kind of elliptical machine, are all really good ways of boosting your cardiovascular system and getting you nice and fit and burning calories, not risking the likelihood of you hurting yourself. Because they're lower impact, things like your joints, your muscles, your tendons, and your bones aren't put under as much stress. So things like shin splints, knee pain, Achilles problems, plantar fasciitis problems are all just a lot less likely to happen, basically. If we think about like a stock market, an investment portfolio, what we want from your exercise routine when you're losing weight is a nice balanced portfolio. If we're only using running to lose weight, and for whatever reason that becomes difficult, if you hurt yourself or if there's an injury, that means you basically just stop losing weight potentially. If you also do a little bit of cycling, a little bit of brisk walking, a little bit of brisk hill walking, swimming, you're not then kind of putting all of your eggs in one basket. It's also going to mean that you're not running 7 days a week. Again, that's a common mistake that people make as well. Variety is really important. The reason being is because what we see is people seeing benefits and weight loss happening when they're running consistently, which means they want to do it more and more, and they make what's called a training error, and that can sometimes then lead to an injury and then time out of running, and then that weight loss journey just stops. Whereas if we're doing kind of a run on a Monday, a cycle on a Tuesday, run on a Wednesday, brisk walk on a Thursday, and a bit more running on the weekends, it just reduces the risk of injury by quite a lot. And it means that we can have that longevity. The likelihood of you being able to just be consistent for longer is much higher. Now, the third mistake that people often make is carrying on when they're injured. Now, I've seen it before where someone's had an amazing weight loss journey. Maybe they've spent 3 months, 6 months getting into running. Maybe they've been posting on social media and they've lost a lot of weight. Their running performance has got really good. So they're kind of hitting lots of PBs and feeling really positive. It's all kind of woven into their social life as well. So they're part of a running club and they get a lot of value from running in their life. And then an injury happens where something starts to creep in, some foot pain, some ankle pain, some shin pain, some knee pain. They kind of try and run it off and shake it off. It's fine to kind of try and carry on with small amounts of pain. Sometimes running puts a lot of load through your body, so you kind of have these things that come and go. If we're getting this kind of more consistent niggling feeling, or maybe the pain is getting more moderate and maybe even sometimes severe, and it's actually making you kind of limp a little bit, making you kind of feel quite stiff in the morning and hobbling down the stairs and things like that, we're getting some of those signals that maybe there's some swelling, that it's more than just a little niggle, and they just carry on and carry on and carry on. And what happens there is the problem gets worse, and when they eventually see a physio or see someone who can help, there's a much longer period of recovery, basically. For example, shin pains, the shin splints, can be a very, very stubborn thing to treat, and the longer patients have had it for when they come in, often just means it's going to be longer for it to settle down. The reason being is because they don't want to stop, and that's the same with everyone. But when it comes to weight loss and feeling like you're going to put weight on if you stop, then it can be really stressful to think about stopping, basically. It's important to make sure that you have a physiotherapist that you work with. You invest in having a specialist, not a friend, not someone who's, just someone you've met down the running club who's going to give you advice on running injuries, because, physiotherapists and ones who specialize in running injuries have spent years and years honing their craft. There's lots of myths, and you're going to get the wrong information. Using the internet as well is just not going to be that helpful. So having someone you trust that you can check in with is a really good idea, because it's a small investment that has a really big impact. Because if they say, oh, just do this one thing, just change this one little thing, you do this little bit rehab thing to help with that, and that means that you don't get injured, that could be 3 months out of running that you've just saved from a few sessions with a physiotherapist. So don't carry on, speak to a specialist, get help, and invest in the time and effort into having a specialist kind of in your corner if you're really serious about running, and using that to keep you fit and potentially to help you lose weight as well, because it really pays off. So leave any questions in the comments box, and thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you soon on the next video.